class on Vedic Astrology. We're going to look at the 4 aims of life that satisfy the soul and the 12 steps to enlightenment that all human beings must take according to Vedic Astrology. Before I begin, I'd like to give you a little bit of a background about myself and what drew me to Vedic Astrology in the first place. I come from an entire family of holistic healers and educators. I'm the 3rd generation from that family. From an early age, I knew that holistic healing was my life path. When I left school, I started to study naturopathy. And during my naturopathic degree, I became very disillusioned with the modern scientific model. It was thousands of different categories, and you need to understand all the unique difference with all these thousands of categories intellectually and how they then relate to something else. When you really want to understand holistic medicine, this becomes a little bit confusing and makes it hard to understand the whole. Although I'm intellectual and I can bond with that to a certain degree, I didn't feel it to be the best system. I was really drawn towards traditional medicine systems because they really understand how everything unites together as the whole. They used smaller amounts of categories and they used common language systems. So it didn't matter if I was looking at a plate of food, a weather pattern, a person, an organ. It was the same common language systems that allowed me to see where does this connect together. What's the unifying principle of it? I then became very passionate about a certain traditional medicine known as Ayurveda, which is the traditional medicine system from India. When I finished my naturopathic degree, I was already teaching Ayurveda at 3 different colleges on the Gold Coast. It wasn't until I went to study in India that I really found a lot more than an amazing holistic medicine system in its original Vedic roots. This ancient Vedic civilization has many different sciences to understand the world that we live in, and yoga and Ayurveda are only just a part of what we can learn from this amazing civilization. I'm going to go through some of these Vedic sciences today, but specifically we're going to focus in on Vedic astrology. So let's have a look at what I refer to as the Trinity of Vedic science. Many of you have heard of yoga here at the Yoga Fest. Originally, yoga was intended as the science of the mind, and its purpose is to unite our mind with a larger spirit. Although we have a lot of physical postures in yoga today, in its original incarnation of the Bhagavad Gita, it was very much about practices to unite the mind with the divine. Next we have the science of Ayurveda, and it's the science of matter and form. Its purpose is to preserve life in form. It's an amazing system of holistic healing, and that's been very much my focus amongst the Vedic sciences. Third, we have Jyotish, also known as Vedic Astrology. It's the science of light and spirit. Its purpose is to understand your unique individuality and what is your purpose in this incarnation. So it gives us a lot of insight about who we are as an individual, what is our place amongst the world, and it also goes into these universal laws that we're part of in this world. Basically, we're part of one ginormous being. All of these sciences point towards that. With yoga, it's the science of mind that points towards the fact that we're part of one super consciousness, and to join with that consciousness is going to be very beneficial. I'll probably do this a few hundred times during the talk. Ayurveda is about understanding that we're connected as one being and that we need to have a look at this balance of all factors of life in order to preserve our life in form. Jyotish teaches us about the specifics of what are these universal laws that we're a part of and how and what is our role amongst the team. It teaches you about what is your individual place amongst a larger team. Just like we have millions of cells, each of them are doing a certain role. We have homeostasis that encourages balance and certain hormones that trigger function within these cells to tell them, oh, this is what your role is in the team. This is what you're meant to do. Let's try and keep you in line. Oh, this organ's going out of balance. We'll trigger a hormone to bring it back in. Jyotish has a look at how that happens on a larger scale. How does the universe tell you when you're out of alignment? How does it try to guide you back towards balance? Not just for the sake of you, but for the sake of the larger being that you are a part of. These are the universal principles that are put in place in order to keep creation going and align you with your role within creation. Let's have a look at how Vedic astrology starts to do that. One of these universal laws, that I'm sure many are familiar with, is karma. Its direct translation is action. And what it means is that every action that we do is recorded. And this record of these actions always works towards creating balance. Newton said, every action will create an equal but opposite reaction. I try to explain this sort of like bank accounts. I find that if you have a bank account, you put money within the bank account, then you've got a lack on this side, you've got an excess on that side. Then you make a lot of withdrawals, and then all of a sudden it's back to balance again. If you make too many withdrawals, now you owe the bank a lot of money, and it's going to be a bit more challenging. It's like that with the universe as well. In Vedic astrology, they say there are 7 main bank account managers. These 7 bank account managers govern and check what's going on in the whole creation and go, oh, someone's made a deposit over here in the Jupiter account. Oh, someone's taken withdrawals over here from the Saturn account. That all needs to be paid back over the time to create harmony and balance amongst the creation. So, there's 4 different types of karma in the Vedic system. First one is sanchita karma, and it relates to our entire accumulated karma. Every action that we've ever done over many lifetimes and what needs to be balanced out from all of those actions. The next one is prarabdha karma, and it relates to our current life karma. Where you think of like this huge amount of karma that we've made over many lifetimes, and in this life we're going to process that little piece. Like I've decided this week I'm going to pay off that debt inside the bank account. What have we chosen to process for this life? The next one is Kimmana karma. Kimmana karma is about our current actions. What are we doing in this life that is accumulating karma? So, and as an example, I may be raising a child and educating another. That's deposits in the Jupiter account. I may be looking after the sick and the needy that don't have money. That's a deposit in the Saturn account. I may be stealing from someone. That's a withdrawal from the Saturn account. So it has a look at all these actions in our present life and how they're relating to our entire accumulated karma. The next one is agama karma. It's our current intentions. People say, oh, it's not about what you intend, it's what you actually do. In the Vedic system, they say it's both, yet the action is more powerful than the intention when it comes to creating accumulated karma over your life. An interesting topic that comes into play when we start to look at karma is people go, oh, I don't believe in karma, I believe in free will. And in the Vedic system, it's both. In the West, we really don't like karma, destiny as much because we feel like it boxes us in and like we've got no control. We much prefer the secret. I create my own life. Everything that I do is going to be manifested because I intend and think of it. In the Vedic system, it's both. It's what we do with our current actions and intentions. This is free will. Right here. It's our free will that created the karma in the first place. Then we've chosen to process a certain piece of that off. What is it that we're going to work through in this lifetime? So they say it's definitely free will, and we created our destiny. They also don't say that just because you created it in many past lifetimes, it means that you're now stuck to it and you've got no choice in this lifetime. You're constantly influencing it and affecting it with your current actions and your current intentions. What they say even more is that the absolute secret to enlightenment, a happy life, creating your own karmas, is first step. Accept that whatever is happening to you, no matter how harsh and supposedly negative it is something that you created yourself, and you did it for the purpose creating balance in the larger being that you are. From that space of acceptance, with love and gratitude for being part of creation, being a living being, you then seek to make righteous action. There's 3 different paths of righteous action. Righteous action should be to yourself, to another, and to the world as equals. If you got that, you really don't need the rest of the class. That's the secret, right there. Doesn't matter how challenging your life circumstances is, if you can accept it as something you created for your own balance of the creation that you're a part of, and then make righteous action with love and gratitude from that space, then your karmas start to fade away. And you're creating your own life from that point, which you did in the beginning anyway. However, if you're a normal human being and you're still lost in the illusion of this creation, then Vedic astrology can really help you out, because it outlines what is your current life karma. What have you pieced off to process in this life now? Through understanding that, it's easier for us to then move into acceptance and going, oh, this is something I've created for myself. Oh, there's a divine purpose within what's going on with my life right now. And then it also shows you as an individual which areas of life may be the dominant parts for you to start taking righteous action. Do you need to take more righteous action towards yourself, towards another, or towards the world? We all have a unique role within the creation. So that's pretty big stuff there. How do we possibly figure all of this out with Vedic astrology? Well, Vedic astrology does this all through sacred divisions. It's the language of mathematics. And we're going to get a little bit mathematical for a moment before we bring it back to something not so mathematical and more feeling. So basically, the whole world is built up on these sacred divisions. And let's just take a moment to appreciate the amazingness. The amazingness of the wind. So, the Earth right now is spinning at 1,500 kilometers an hour on its axis. And it is moving around the sun at 77,000 kilometers an hour. Now, right now, it feels pretty relaxed and calm here at the Brisbane Museum, doesn't it? Like, how amazing is that? That we are actually moving at lightning speed right now. You don't even know it. You're just chilling here. In the sun, everything seems all cruisy. That's pretty awe-inspiring to me. This incredible being that we're a part of made all of that happen without us even knowing. Next one is about the sun and the moon. Now, I always look at these balance principles that are innate within all of Earth, and there's diameter. Have you ever wondered why the sun and the moon appear to be exactly the same size? Like when we look up at the sun, when we look up at the moon, they look like they're exactly the same size. And for us, they are exactly the same size. Yet there's this ginormous sun and this tiny little orbiting rock, and yet they look the same size. It's because the diameter of the sun is exactly 108 times away from the Earth. The diameter of the moon is exactly 108 times away from the Earth. It's pretty amazing sacred mathematics there. That we've got this heavenly body sun, heavenly body moon, masculine, feminine, soul and mind, that are in this perfect balance right now to create what we're experiencing here. If those masculine and feminine polarities were not so evenly placed, we wouldn't be experiencing this balance between soul and mind that created humanity. And it won't be there forever. The moon is moving away at 1/4 inch per year. So it's a sacred mathematical division that's meant to create life here on Earth at this time. So, coming back to where we are. So let's have a look at a couple of these sacred divisions. So So first we have a circle. The circle is the whole, all of life. If we want to understand anything, we first look at the whole. Then we start to use some small amounts of divisions to divide it up and see what are the parts and bring it back to the whole again. So this division of 4 is very good for elements, building blocks. For those that know a little bit about astrology, there's 4 main elements used inside astrology. So they tell us about the building blocks of creation. If we continue to divide this up, and not so even, intellectual capacity is my strength and not art. We now have 12 different divisions here. These 12 are really influential when it comes to human existence. Both 4 and 12 divide into the 108 that we just talked about before. This 108 is really important when it comes to this soul-mind-human relationship, birth existence. Anytime we can divide a number into another one, they can be used to give insight upon a certain subject, which means how many times can we use that division, like 3, 4, 12. If we can look through both of them at the same time, we're going to get more accuracy. So let's start looking at this one. We've got 12 here. If we put the 4, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. It's going to come out to there. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's going to come out to there. 1, 2, 3, 4. Comes back to the top again. So we've now got the whole. We've got 12. And we've got 4, 4, 4. And we've also got 3, 3, 3. We're going to start to unpack a little bit more about what this means and how it relates. Now these are the main ones we're going to look at now. Now if we really went into Vedic astrology, there is literally thousands of these divisions. We're doing like a tiny little piece of what the whole subject of Vedic astrology could use. But we're going to look at this 3, 4, 12. We're going to have a look at how this relates to a Vedic astrology chart. We'll start to unpack a chart now. This is what's referred to as the South Indian chart. There's many different Vedic astrology charts, and this chart is a recreation of how it would have looked at the time of my birth, just as an example. But each one of these boxes, there's 12 of them that go around the outside, represent the different signs of the zodiac. So the zodiac, for those who don't know, is a 360-degree belt that's moving around us, or technically we are spinning and it's almost staying in the same place. The Earth would be in the center here. As the Earth spins, it shows a different aspect of the zodiac, each one of them 30 degrees wide. Then we've got in red the planets. Now I've only listed 7 planets here, because Vedic astrology says these 7 planets are the most important because they're the ones that reflect light back to the naked eye. The rest of the planets don't reflect light back to the naked eye. So we're talking about the science of light and spirit, so naturally these ones that reflect light back to our naked eye are some of the most powerful influences. When it says Mars in Gemini up here, what it means is that if we looked at the sky, we would see that Mars appeared to be within that constellation of stars. As we continued around through the zodiac, we'd see Karma again. We'd see different planets appearing to be at different points within the zodiac. Next is this little red line down here. This line represents what astrology refers to as the ascendant or the rising sign. It's one of the most important parts of any astrology chart because it denotes where we start another one of these sacred divisions of 12. So this being number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, from wherever that ascendant point is. And what it means is, when we look out to the eastern horizon, what stars were on the eastern horizon at that time? So if we were looking out to the eastern horizon at the time of my birth, there would have been the stars of Scorpio, and there would have been the moon just rising at that point. This ascendant, because the Earth's spinning so fast, 1,500 kilometers an hour, moves every 2 hours. So, because it's moving, just like this paper, every 2 hours, it really changes our individuality a lot. It also is one of the reasons why horoscopic astrology, as practiced in magazines today, can be very inaccurate, because they're concerned with the sun. When someone says to you in the West, oh, what's your star sign? They're really saying, what is your sun sign? Where was the sun positioned in what zodiac at the time of your birth? And the sun only moves a sign every month. This is moving a sign every 2 hours. And it's also denoting where this sacred division of 12 will start from. The sacred division of 12 denotes the domains of life. Which areas of life, your 12-step process towards enlightenment, will that journey start from? So let's have a look at what these 12 steps are, or these 12 domains of life. Got them written over here, and hopefully it's not too reflective for you there. The first one here is the individual, or the body. So that first house denotes to the individual, or the body. The second one is our resources. So we've got a body, we now need resources. We need some food to eat, we need some money and other things. Then we start to get an ego, we get our ideas. These are my resources, this is my body, these are my ideas. We create a home, a safe internal space. After that, we have offspring. Or we want to nurture the life of another and support and educate and bring up the life of another. During that process, we realize it's a lot of hard work. Those who raise children, it's a lot of hard work on creating and nurturing the life of another. Once we bring up that child, they then turn into an equal other. The seventh domain of life is the spouse. Really, it's our equal opposing other. Even a child, when they turn into an adult, is like, no, you're no longer my person that's going to raise me up and tell me what to do and educate me. I'm your equal now. We're equal opposing others at that point, which can be represented by the spouse. And eventually, all of the equal others in life will also die. It's the house of death. Then we move on to wisdom. As something dies, we realise that actually it was just recycled. It was just another part of creation, moving and transforming. This is the real wisdom of the world here. This was a bit of education. This was like real divine wisdom. Once we really start to get wise about things, we can start to have a career. If we really know how to teach something, we can have a career and a public face to the world. Our career then create our long-term dreams, our life goals. And then at the end of that we realise, oh, let's go and let go of it all. I don't really need to be attached to anything. These are the 12 steps, the 12 domains of life that all human beings experience to a certain degree. But what makes it whether or not you experience more of them or not is whether or not there's planets that are activating those pieces. So we looked at that current life karma that I've picked off to process in this life will denote if there's more planets within those houses, then it's going to activate more karma within that area of life. We've got more things that you'll need to process and work with in those areas of life. It's time to do some bank account balancing for those areas. These 12 we looked at before, we could have divided them into the 3 that we saw on the other chart. So we divide the whole 12, we get the first 4. This first 4 is to do with the self. My body, my resources, my ideas, my home. So if there's more planets within this first area, then you've got more things to process in relation to yourself. Maybe you've got karmas, positive or negative, in relation to what you've done to yourself over many lifetimes. The next 4, 5 to 8, are in relation to another. So my child, the hard work I do for another, might equal other, and the death of another. Same thing again. More houses within that area, planets within those houses, I should say, denotes more karma to process there. The last one denotes to the world at large. Yeah? What is our effect upon the world? True wisdom. They also call this house the house of yoga, house of union, house of really understanding what's going on in the world. My public face to the world, your career. A lot of people think of your career as something personal, but actually it's not at all. It's what the world thinks of you as. People go, oh, Kimmana, yeah, he practices Ayurveda. They really don't know much about me. It's just my career. It's my home, my internal life will tell you a lot more about me than my career would. Just as my body would tell you a lot more about me. Once we have a career, we then create life goals. These life goals are often to do with how we could affect the world. What is our impression that we're going to leave upon the world? And at the end of that, we realise, oh, those life goals are really not that important. The idea was to be non-attached to everything. So we've seen that division of 3 into the 12. We're going to put it into some examples in a moment. Before we do, we've got the division of 4 over here. This division of 4 is known as the Purusharthas, which is the 4 paths of life that satisfy the soul. They say there's 4 different paths that truly satisfy your soul that you can take. The first one is Dharma. That's righteous action. So actually performing action that is righteous. And that could happen first for yourself. Righteous action for yourself. Righteous action for another. Righteous action for the world. There is ginormous volumes that are devoted towards each one of these, so we're really giving them a brief little overview. The next one is Artha. It's wealth creation and resources. So it satisfies the soul to create more resources that are there, because then it influences how you can actually affect the world. The more resources that are there satisfy the soul, enabling you to perform more dharmic action. Stay. Last one, karma. Karma is about pleasure and enjoyment. It's part of the purpose of creation, to enjoy the creation as well. Last one, moksha. It's about freedom, liberation, being completely unattached to whatever you created that dharmic action for, unattached to the resources, and unattached to the pleasure. You do the action for the sake of the action. You make the resources for the sake of having resources. You enjoy the pleasure for the sake of pleasure in the moment. And if it's not there, you're totally unattached to it. Now, which one of these 4 paths is dominant for you depends again on where these planets are placed amongst the chart. The more planets that are placed within a certain area, let's say someone's got all of the planets placed in home, death, liberation, that's moksha, moksha, moksha. Yeah. Their path is all about letting go. Completely unattached to what goes on. The chances are there's a lot that they're going to need to let go of in their life. Just that, oh, it's okay. It's another thing for me to let go of. To know that can be really uplifting for the person. It's like, oh, I don't need to just constantly keep working and get so upset. It's like, oh, that's divine. By actually letting go of that, I'm creating balance in this larger picture of creation. It can be really supportive. It can also be really supportive to know that's only going to be the next 2 years. And you don't have to do it forever. Because we can see these activation periods that are going to show when these different planets are getting activated. When are these karmas being processed? I'm sure you've all experienced someone that's been super wealthy at certain times of their life and then they've lost it all at another time because it was time for a different planet to step up and take its chorus. To be able to know when that planet is taking the chorus, it's going to be singing the loudest and its karmas are going to process the most. So we can see which domain of life is it, self, the other, the world, which of the Purusharthas are going to satisfy the soul the most at that time. We'll start to put it into a little bit of an example on my chart here. The first house, the body, I got one planet here. I have not had the most amazing karma in relation to my body. I've had many different health challenges, which has drawn me towards health and understanding that even more. I've been able to overcome and work with those karmas quite well, and because I've accepted it as something that I needed to take dharmic action towards my body in order to process that karma. If you're interested in the story of my health experiences, it's written on my website. You can go through the whole story there. So in that first, to the self, we've only really got that one planet there. So not a lot of karmas to process in relation to the self. But the moon's a pretty important planet. So we come around, and we had the first four there. Now we've got the next four here. So this relates to the other. We've got one planet here, and it's death. No, in relation to death, I practice holistic medicine. I have to continually deal with people and their injuries, their illnesses, cancer, suffering, all of these things of loss of another. I have to deal with that how? In a freedom way, in a letting go way. I can do the best that I can to help someone else's life, and it's still their karma to let go at that point. I've had great success with lots of different imbalances and diseases. Does that mean that I'm always going to? Definitely not. It means that over my life I'm going to have to be very unattached to the actions that I perform. The dharmic actions where I try and help another, I may have to just be, oh, it's okay. It's the karma, let go. They're in suffering, they're dying. Oh, it's a part of life, you know. That to be free of that emotion is okay. Then we come to the last four, the other, the world. So we can see that there is quite a dominance of planets that are in the world. So there's a lot of karmic energy, a lot that I've decided to process off for this lifetime that's to do with how I impact the world. If we really started to look at all the sub-planets as well, and not just the seven that reflect light, we'd see that this house here, the ninth house, is the one that has more planets than anything else in my chart. Even when we look at the major planets, we've still got the sun here, so it's a pretty powerful planet, and we've got two planets there, then we've got more sub-planets. So we know that the ninth house, wisdom, yoga, philosophy that unites things together, unites the world together as one, is a key part of my dharmic action to the world. This is what I need to do to satisfy the soul more than anything else. I need to figure out how I can spread wisdom to the world so that it can reach far beyond what I say, so we can really affect the world on a larger scale. Next one, career. One planet here, so career may be a little bit important. Two planets here, long-term dreams and visions. So people that get to know me well realize I've got way too many long-term dreams and visions, and I really connect them together. The 11th house, your life goals will always involve the world at large, you know? And it happens through lots of people joining together to be able to create that. And it brings us a lot of pleasure when that happens, it comes into form. So we can see this reflecting through the chart here. There's a lot more complexity than the brief example that I brought together here, but that's a little understanding of how we would see what someone's karma is, what their purpose is in life. And now we go through processes to look at how they could be more accepting of that. What are the time frames that those karmas may exist for? And then how can they start to work with those bank accounts? There's a lot of information amongst the Vedic vaults that will tell you about how you can work with these karmas, from mantra, prayer, offering. If you've taken a lot of withdrawals from the Saturn account, that it might be time to go and look after the needy and the sick, because you can then make those deposits a whole lot quicker rather than forced debt collectors have come. Saturn debt collectors, never nice. No, it's really important to understand how we can best manage that and make those deposits a little quicker. I've got a little bit of time, so if someone's got some questions, you're welcome to ask them now. Oh, definitely. The karmas are running through you, and your life will be a great teacher in that. So it's going to show you a lot of what's going on for sure. It's something that I knew from an early age, that I was attracted towards these things. I wasn't quite as sure in the way in which I would present them to the world. Especially during times of struggle. Like, if I take that example, my family were creating a health retreat, an education centre on the Sunshine Coast in Noosa. It's 45 acres of forest. It's been a long-term dream of mine since I was a child. And during my study with naturopathy, during the disillusion stage of like, oh my God, what am I doing here? I don't know how I'm ever going to get to these long-term dreams and visions. Even the naturopathy doesn't seem like it's going to take me there. And so I decided to go on a world adventure, go around the world, try and discover a bit more of what I meant to do. I came across a Vedic astrologer, and he told me a lot about what was going on. He told me details from the relationships that I'd had, the year that they started, the months that they were ending, what was going on for me now. That I would create a health education centre in the forest, were his words. It's 45 acres of forest. And that people from all over the world would come and teach there. That information was crucial for me, because in my time of disillusion it was like, oh, yeah, you still need to work towards that goal. It's your purpose. Get down to that dharmic action. He also taught me a lot about certain relationships that would challenge me, and what would be the things that could continually come up as karmic challenge points over my life. So then I was more able to deal with that, accept those things as divine, and each time those challenge points came up, it was easier for me to move through it, merge with it. Any other questions? Yeah? Well, what we'd be seeing is that possibly there isn't a planet here in the house of Korea, or there's 5 planets here. Yeah. And then we'd see that those different planets were getting activated at different points over their life. We call these dashas in Vedic astrology. It's a big topic, I won't go sidetrack. But basically we can see when certain planets are getting activated, that activation is going to show us, oh, those 5 planets, now we're going to move towards Jupiter in there. So maybe the person's going to do teaching amongst it. Yeah. A chart? It depends. If someone wants to get a reading off me, I could narrow in on the next 2 years, and that'll take me about 3 hours of research to do that properly, just to narrow in on the next 2 years. So if you want to do like your whole life, at least at my humble level of astrology, that would take me many weeks of research to be able to just compile the information to tell you, and then to actually express it to you, again, would take many hours too. So it's a very in-depth system of astrology, and it's very specific. When it comes to timing of events, it's one of the strengths of Vedic astrology. Okay.
So how does it map to like Western astrology, like if you want to take one birth chart, is it the same in Vedic astrology?
It's very similar. They both share similar roots. We still have the same zodiac signs. Yeah. The difference, well, there's many differences. The most important difference is that Vedic astrology goes off the astronomy of where the constellations are in the sky. Western astrology fixed it to a certain point in 160 AD. Since then, the zodiac has moved 24 degrees. It doesn't mean Western astrology is wrong. It just means that it's not astronomically correct. If someone said, oh, your son was in a certain sign at birth, like in Western astrology, my son is in Leo. But if you were actually at the time of my birth and you looked up at the sky, at the stars, the sun would have been in Cancer. Astronomically, Vedic astrology is the one that is astronomically correct with the backdrop of the stars, and Western astrology is not astronomically correct. They both work with sacred divisions, and those sacred divisions allow us to understand more about the world and our place in it. They're not wrong, but being astronomically correct, I would say creates a little bit more accuracy amongst the predictions, especially when it comes to life-specific predictions. Now this is something that they wrote down in the Surya Siddhanta, an ancient Vedic text that's almost 3,000 years old, and they wrote that down to the point, I think it was 4 points of a degree, how much the zodiac moves. We only got that down with our scientific information 20 years ago, to 4 points of a degree. They had that 3,000 years ago. And that really starts to show you like some of the amazing stuff. When it comes to Ayurveda, they've got organ transplant surgery 2,000 years ago. With the herbs to suppress the immune system, everything. This civilization was amazing. And they've got a lot of knowledge that we can really learn from. I'm going to have to start wrapping up. What I do, if you're interested in Vedic wisdom and how you can use it as practical tools to help your health and happiness and life, there's a range of different things that I offer. The only one that's coming up in Australia, because I travel and teach around the world, is Vitality Now. It's an Ayurvedic cleansing process that I've devised. It's a 7-day digestive healing retreat. It's held on my family's retreat centre on the Sunshine Coast, 45-acre private property. It's really beautiful. And during the digestive healing cleanse, we take a lot of different herbs. We understand certain Ayurvedic processes that work inside the body. And I do a lot of Vedic wisdom classes each day that relate how you can use this Vedic wisdom as practical tools in your life. That relates to mastery of the mind, as well as physical practices for the body, the daily cycles of the sun and how they relate to the pituitary and pineal gland and triggering our brain processes. There's a lot of good wisdom amongst that. I also have a special discount for the people here at Yoga Fest where you can get $200 off Vitality Now. That's only $797 for a 7-day retreat. It's pretty exceptional value for people. If you're interested in that, my wife will be at the little table at the back there. You can talk to us afterwards. There's also a little pamphlet that tells you about it. The next one is ThaiVedic bodywork. I have qualifications in more than 12 different styles of bodywork and hands-on healing. And I've co-created an international healing school with a few other really exceptional healers. And it teaches people how to heal the individual using touch therapies and somatic understandings of the body. And the next course will be coming up in Bali with Gwyn Williams. He runs Zentai Shiatsu. We'll be co-teaching that together at this Shanti Healing Retreat Centre. He'll be having a look at Zentai Shiatsu bodywork, how that relates to Ayurveda, and how we can use both of them together to heal the body. I run a lot of different courses, ThaiVedic bodywork in different parts of the world. We've got little bookmarks that you can take with you if you want to see the dates for that. And last is my website, which is my name, Kimmana.com. And if you're interested in consultations, either holistic medicine, Ayurveda, or Vedic astrology to counsel you through a challenging time and understand what the purpose is, maybe a time frame going on, then you can contact me anytime through Kimmana.com. I also have a newsletter that we publish through Kimmana.com. I call it the Balanced Truth newsletter. It delivers high-value content that can really change people's lives. It's all about wellness, education, and self-healing techniques. For the people that sign up for the newsletter today, we're going to give one free Vedic astrology consultation. It's worth $150. So if you're interested to win a Vedic astrology consultation, then you can sign up to the newsletter on the little table at the back there. That's all we have for today. I'm really happy to share the Vedic wisdom with you.